Hello YouTube! We start this new cycle of hardcore reviews with presenting the capabilities of Leatherman Surge, one of the toughest tools in the entire range. Leatherman calls this range heavy duty. Let's see if it is capable of overcoming really tough tasks. A large Leatherman must feature pillars, large, solid and precise with wire cutters, which are irreplaceable in this model, but a newer model offers this feature. Plain blade is super sharp and features a liner lock as well as serrated blade, which can be used to cut seat belts or ropes, for example. There is also a T-shank jig with wood saw or metal file, which are replaceable in this model. There are also very useful scissors with a perfectly designed spring, which engages when the scissors are locked by the liner lock. When you release it, the spring is also released and you can put the scissors back into the tool. On the inside you can find other tools, including one of my favorites, a holder for replaceable bits. There are a dozen or so bits you can purchase separately. The bits, similar to all tools in the Surge, feature their own locks, so everything's under control. There is also a can opener. On the other side you will find a rigid flat screwdriver, a small eyeglass screwdriver and an awl with a thread loop. There is also a ruler in inches and centimeters. Surge is a rather heavy but portable tool. Let's see what it's capable of. We started with a test of screwing, unscrewing or twisting. For this purpose we have screwed various bolts or screws into a plank to unscrew them later on with the Surge, while screwing some of them into other points as hard as possible. And I mean really hard, because the plank cracked while the tool was undamaged. A hook was then screwed using strong pillars and unscrewed using the Surge pillars. As you may imagine, this was easy for the Surge. Screw caps or screws themselves, which were screwed into the plank using strong socket wrenches, were no challenge for the Surge. The steel of which the Surge is made is extremely hard and tough, and there are almost no traces left on it after performing such works. Second test: cutting. As I have mentioned before, the Surge features two blades. The tests were performed using both, but due to identical results, we'll only show one of them. First is the paper test, then thin rope and thick hemp rope. All cuts were completed back to back without sharpening the blade. A piece of rubber almost half-inch thick. Cardboard, which highly dulls the blade due to sand content. Then 100 grit sandpaper, followed by a successful paper test again. After all these heavy-duty tests, we try to cut a tire. As you can see, this test was passed perfectly. The serrated blades has undergone similar tests, and then it was used to free from locked seatbelts. The results were outstanding. Then we test wire cutting, sewing and even batoning. We started with cutting very hard 2.5 zinc-coated wire, which left some marks on the wire cutter. As I have mentioned, the newer model features replaceable wire cutters, so this problem can be solved easily. Then we cut plain cables, including 3 wire cables. The saw, despite its small length, is quite good, but the T-shank jig enables to replace it with a whole bunch of common tools. We even had some fun with batoning. Those familiar with this topic know that this task should be done with knives with fixed blades only, but we wanted to see the resistance. At times the liner lock let go, but in the end it all worked out. Only after its folding it was slightly too close to the edge of the handle. If the serrated blade works well with freeing from seatbelts, we wanted to see if the Surge allows us to free another person from a car, for which you'd often need to break the glass. Because the Surge doesn't feature a typical glass breaker, we used the bits and the awl. The bits needed 3 trials but survived, which is not the case with the awl. When used, it broke the glass at the first trial, but the awl broke too. If you really need to break the glass, use the bits. Then we tested it for general lack of delicacy. We wanted to see if we needed to mind the surge when working with it, so we did things for which it wasn't designed. So we hammered the pillars into thick glued glass of a car we got from a junkyard. We also stabbed the roof using the blade. This apparently delicate blade made 3 big holes in the thick body and it wasn't damaged. It only bended slightly, but this could be easily fixed. We continued our tests. We used plenty of force when hitting the roof with a can opener to see how rigid it is. There were no marks on the can opener whatsoever. We used the pillars to break or pull various elements out of the car, and believe me, we spared neither the Surge nor ourselves when using all our strength to do this. Whatever we thought would be the actual test turned out to be only the initial stage for the Leatherman Surge. The blade was undamaged even after it left 3 holes in the car roof. The serrated blade suffered only a few scratches after similar tests. The pillars, after experiencing highly inhumane treatment, were scratched, to say the most, and only the wire cutters were slightly distorted. The ends of the grip became slightly loose, which could probably be fixed by tightening the screws, but we decided not to fix anything until the end of the test. So far, so good. Owners of the Surge use it for various purposes, including at large heights. Experience shows that when something can fall, sooner or later it will. We decided to check how Surge handles falls onto concrete from 16 feet or so. We dropped it on its bottom, side or edge. It kept falling in all the possible ways, on the longer and the shorter edges. It fell flat down or completely vertically. It also fell on unfolded tools. We were tempted to check the damage between each of those drops, but we waited until the very end, and I have to admit that nobody from the crew expected such a result. The Surge was almost untouched. Only a small distance plate for the folded pillars was bent, but this can be easily repaired. Apart from this and a few new scratches, the tools were still working. The blade opened as before with perfectly working lock, as well as the scissors. They were still working perfectly. Similarly, the serrated blade and its lock were undamaged, as in the case of other tools of the Surge. Very impressive. The Surge seemed indestructible, so we challenged it with a heavy-duty weapon, Chrysler Town & Country, a car weighing more than 2 tons with the 660 kilos front wheel load. We were sure that Surge would not win this battle, but we were wrong. Nothing happened. Absolutely nothing. Slightly irritated now, we placed it on the narrower side, which meant to end the car tests. We were wrong again. Nothing happened in any way. The Surge seemed to be absolutely indestructible. We placed it in sideways on the narrow edge. This test seemed to be the end of our Surge adventure because the wheel slid off of it and we thought the tool simply broke. Nothing like that happened. How impressive. Something that we assumed to be a simple durability test of the Multitool became an irritating effort of destroying it. Irritating because all of efforts were unsuccessful. The surge did not break even after it was run over with unfolded pillars. After all these tests, we ran out of ideas how to reach the durability limit of the Leatherman. We kept running it over in all sorts of ways, and finally, when the wheel slid off again, while heavily crushing it into concrete, a small plate for blocking the internal tools fell off. After 3 days of hardcore tests, we were more exhausted than the Leatherman Surge itself, but generally the tool worked fine. There were a few new scratches after the car tests, but apart from 2 tools which were damaged, everything worked. It is really hard to imagine such hardcore circumstances in its normal daily use. The pillars could be unfolded just as before, so with a bit of resistance and with the same precision as it was designed. The serrated blade and the lock as well, as the plain blade requires slight sharpening and straightening at the most. The T-shank jig tool holder worked like a charm. The only malfunction apart from the internal tool lock is the scissor spring, which did not engage when the scissors were locked. Most likely this problem would be solved after improving the lock operation. What is the balance of damage after such extreme tests? Broken awl, broken internal tool lock, damaged scissor spring, slightly bent blade and a few scratches. What an absolutely outstanding result in our opinion.